Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now, when you first hear Capture the Flag, you probably think of a standard multiplayer mode that gets tacked onto a shooter as an afterthought. But this game completely flips that on its head, taking that classic formula and building an entire, fast-paced 5v5 third-person competitive experience around it. It's called Last Flag, and it just dropped over on Steam. Let's get into it.
Once I hit you with that bad space, you ain't coming back. No control on the bitch, give me space like that. Hit you with that bad space, you ain't coming back.
This game honestly has that classic MOBA movement style. It's precise, fluid, and carries specific weight and responsiveness you get from top-tier competitive games. But because it's a third-person action game, that MOBA-style movement translates beautifully into a pacing around tight corners, dodging enemy fire, and managing your position. It's got great rhythm to it. You aren't just mindlessly sprinting and sliding around. Every step and position choice and movement feels intentional, which feels incredibly rewarding once you get the hang of it. And you're going to need that precise movement because the matches are incredibly fast-paced. It's a 5v5 chaos in the best possible way. The core loop is wild. At the start of the round, your team actually gets a minute to hide your own flag somewhere sneaky on the map. Once show starts, it's non-stop sprint to protect your hidden flag while hunting down theirs. And when you finally track down their enemy flag, manage to grab it and run it all the way back to your base, the game hits a whole new gear. You have to defend it for a full 60 seconds while the entire enemy throws absolute everything they have at you. It creates these massive high adrenaline multiplayer moments where teamwork is everything. Speaking of the maps though, the level design here is massive breath of fresh air. They have implemented this grid system and had a really unique like map tower mechanic that I haven't seen done like this before. Instead of just wandering aimlessly looking for a flag, you can capture these radar towers scattered across the map. When your team controls a tower, it starts scanning the battlefield to pinpoint which grid section the enemy flag is hidden in. The more towers your team controls, the faster the towers can scan and narrow down the search grid. It completely changes how you approach the map. It's not just about getting kills, it's a constant macro level tug of war for map control and information. It makes the matches feel deeply strategic and gives the grid maps a super refreshing layout compared to standard 3-lane shooter maps. Of course, a hero shooter is only as good as its roster, and the Last Flag has some pretty cool variety here. You have a legendary cast of contestants, and each character comes with totally different abilities. You got your standard QEC hotkeys, and it's also controller compatible. So whether you want to play a tanky brawler or a fast-paced flag runner or utility-based radar tycoon, there's a playstyle for it. What's even better is how these abilities interact. When you start pairing up different characters and combining their powers, like dropping a crowd control ability right as your teammate launches the massive ult, the multiplayer synergy just feels incredibly fun. There's a ton of potential here for a really deep competitive meta because the characters kits allow for such creativity. But that brings us to the elephant in the room, and the big questions I always ask myself with indie multiplayer titles these days. Does it have what it takes to survive? We all know the modern multiplayer landscape is brutal. It is a literal graveyard of fantastic creative games that simply couldn't hold onto an audience. Last Flag is an objectively solid, polished game with an incredibly fair price point and absolutely zero pay-to-win mechanics, which is rare to see. The developers at Night Street Games clearly poured a lot of love into it, and they've been putting out updates and patches to keep polishing the experience. But as it stands right now, the player count is incredibly low. It's heartbreaking to see, but the core gameplay loop is genuinely a blast, and it has a making of a sleeper hit. Ultimately, The Last Flag is an overall solid game. It takes a classic concept, injects it with a creative tower and grid mechanic, gives you great character abilities, and layers it with satisfying MOBA-style movement. I genuinely hope it can find its footing, pick up some steam, and survive a long run, because the developers have built something special here. If you're tired of some old corporate shooters and want a fresh, fun multiplayer experience to play with some friends, I highly recommend checking it out on Steam and give it a shot. We need to support cool indie projects like this, or we're just going to be felt with the same few giant franchises forever. But yeah, those are my thoughts on The Last Flag. Let me know down in the comments if you played it or you plan on picking it up. If you enjoyed the discussion, feel free to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps out. As always, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Be kind, love one another, and don't be a dick. See ya.